My name is Tom. I'm a quiet guy. I like being alone. As a writer, I need long stretches of silence, and that suits me just fine. In my stories, things make sense. Out here, not so much. Parties and get-togethers? Forget it. The noise, the fake smiles, pretending to care about what people are saying, it sucks the life out of me. So, I avoid them like the plague. But there was a time when one thing mattered more than my work, my marriage. Notice the was. Sarah and I had been married for years, but honestly, we stopped being a real couple a long time ago. No big fights, not really, but no real talks either. We just existed under the same roof, like two strangers who happened to share a lease. Somewhere along the line, whatever love we had just vanished into thin air. Sarah is my opposite. Outgoing, always chasing something, always in the middle of everything. Her job in consulting ate up all her time, or so it seemed. Late nights became normal, endless meetings, trips that dragged on forever. At first, I asked, "Why so late? Can't you finish earlier? When will we have time together?" The answer was always the same excuse. Eventually, I shut up. I got tired of the lies and just accepted the truth. She didn't have time for me because she didn't want to have time for me. I buried myself in my writing, in books, in the quiet that my work demanded. It was easier that way. Then, one night, she brought up the company party. Not just a casual invite. She insisted I go. Said it would be good for me. A chance to meet important people. A networking opportunity. I couldn't have cared less about shaking hands with suits or pretending to understand their business jargon. Making connections wasn't on my to-do list. But the way she pushed it, it made me stop. She wasn't just suggesting. She was practically ordering. And for the first time in ages, it felt like she was trying. Maybe this was her clumsy way of fixing things, of pulling me into her world, like I'd always asked her to. That stupid little part of me that still clung to the idea of saving our marriage latched onto that thought. So, after some back and forth, I caved. I told her I'd go. I wasn't thrilled, but if there was even a tiny chance this could be a step back towards us, I was willing to suffer through a few hours of fake smiles and forced conversations. Little did I know that saying yes to that party was the first step towards everything falling apart. We arrived looking like the picture of a happy couple. Sarah had gone all out, wearing some fancy dress that made every head in the room turn the moment we walked in. I'd even put on a suit, even though I couldn't have cared less about making an impression. The party was exactly what you'd expect. Big, fancy, full of well-dressed people talking about money and deals over expensive wine. Sarah wasted no time dragging me around, introducing me to her colleagues. Their reactions were all the same, polite curiosity. "So you're Tom. We've heard so much." I'd nod, shake hands, exchange a few empty words. It was clear I was the oddity, the mysterious husband who never showed up. Some of them tried to dig, asking about my books, my opinions on whatever they thought a writer would care about. Surprisingly, I found myself talking more than I expected. Maybe this night wouldn't be a total waste. The evening was going okay. Not fun, exactly, but I'd settled into the background noise. The conversations were bearable, the drinks were decent, and for the first time in a long time, Sarah seemed aware that I was even there. I wasn't dumb enough to think one night would magically fix us, but for a moment, I let myself believe it was a start. Everything was normal until the music changed, the lights dimmed, and couples started drifting onto the dance floor. I wasn't really paying attention until a guy walked straight up to us. Didn't even look at me, just walked right to Sarah. "Shall we?" he asked, his voice smooth and sure, holding out his hand like he already knew the answer. For a split second, I waited for Sarah to shake her head, maybe laugh it off, stay put. I expected her to wave him away, tell him she was with her husband. But instead, she smiled. She was about to take his hand. Something snapped inside me. I grabbed her wrist hard. "You're not going anywhere," I said, my voice low and tight. The guy, Mark, I'd later learn, finally looked at me. Didn't say a word at first. I held my ground. "If you want to dance with my wife, you ask properly. Or you don't dance at all." That should have been it. But it wasn't. Sarah turned on me, her face twisted with anger. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she hissed, yanking her arm away. "You're embarrassing me." I stared at her, shocked. She turned back to Mark, brushing past me like I was a piece of furniture. She was about to walk off with him, right in front of me. No shame, no hesitation. Something else broke inside me. "If you move one more step," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I will end this marriage. That got Mark's attention. He turned fully, looked me dead in the eye, and said, his voice calm and cruel, you've always been weak, Tom. You won't do anything. Then, without breaking eye contact, he took Sarah's hand, pulled her along, and just like that, she followed. The humiliation hit me like a punch, but I refused to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. I wouldn't be the idiot who caused a scene. Instead, I turned and walked away alone. When Sarah finally came home that night, I was still awake. I heard the front door open, the click of her heels on the floor. My mind had been racing all night, even though sleep wouldn't come. A few minutes later, she stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I expected some weak excuse, some kind of explanation. Instead, she launched straight into an attack. You embarrassed me, she spat, her eyes burning. You made a scene for no reason, and then you just left. You abandoned me at my own work party. I sat there, silent, letting her words wash over me. In her mind, she was the victim, and I was the one who'd ruined everything. As I listened, it became crystal clear. Sarah had no respect for me. Not as her husband, not as a man. A marriage without respect is a house built on sand. I knew arguing was pointless. She'd already decided she was right. Her harsh words just confirmed what I already suspected. Sarah's actions, her refusal to take any blame, had sealed our fate. But before I dealt with that, there was Mark. I'm not a violent man, but I don't let people walk all over me. Mark had crossed a line, approaching Sarah so boldly, clearly thinking I was too pathetic to do anything about it. His arrogance was his first mistake. I decided right then and there. I wouldn't let anyone disrespect me, and I'd make him pay for it. The next morning, Sarah barely acknowledged me. No, good morning. No small talk, just cold silence. She moved around the house like I wasn't there, slamming drawers, sighing loudly, making sure I knew she was still punishing me. I didn't react. I'd already checked out of her twisted games. My mind was on something else. By midday, I made my move. I hired a private investigator. My instructions were simple. I wanted everything on Mark. Every dirty secret, every skeleton in his closet. Where he lived, who he talked to, where he spent his nights. If there was dirt to be found, I wanted it in my hands. The investigator didn't ask questions. He just nodded and got to work. Days crawled by, and Sarah continued her silent treatment. But I didn't care. I barely noticed. I was waiting for results. Weeks later, the report came in. Mark was married. 2 kids. A wife who, judging by the photos, was blissfully unaware of the garbage she was married to. But that wasn't all. Mark had a history. Complaints from women at his workplace about unwanted advances. Some settled quietly, some dismissed. A pattern of behavior swept under the rug of corporate indifference. But the real gold, the real knife twist, was the evidence of his affairs. Photos, videos, documenting his extracurricular activities, his long history of inappropriate behavior at work. Different women, different locations, hotels, bars, even late-night meetings in dark parking lots. And among them, Sarah. Seeing the proof of their affair twisted something in my gut. I'd suspected it, but now I had the receipts. Mark didn't know it yet, but he was finished. The first strike had to be personal. His wife deserved to know who she was sleeping next to. I put together a package, a USB drive loaded with images and videos of Mark where a married man had no business being. He'd been careless, and I had the proof. I added a handwritten note. You deserve better. I hired a delivery guy to drop it off at her doorstep. I gave it a few days, letting the bomb detonate in their home. Maybe she confronted him. Maybe she packed her bags. I didn't know, and honestly, I didn't care. That was their war to fight. But I wasn't done with Mark. He needed to lose more than just his marriage. His job was next. I started sending anonymous emails to his company's HR department. Detailed reports of his workplace harassment, his pattern of sleeping with colleagues, how he used his position to silence women. One email wouldn't be enough. Companies ignore single complaints. So, I made it look bigger. I created multiple email accounts, each with a slightly different version of the evidence, each sounding like a concerned employee tired of the toxic environment Mark had created. The pressure worked. The whispers turned into official meetings. Mark was being watched, questioned, scrutinized. It took a month, but the verdict finally came. He was fired. Sarah didn't escape untouched either. The company suspended her and the other women involved. Maybe they were still deciding what to do, or maybe it was a warning. Either way, the damage was done. The day Mark was fired, Sarah walked through the door looking like death. I already knew. My inside sources had fed me every detail. The emails, the investigation, the final decision. She hadn't said a word to me, but I could see it in her face. Rough day? I asked, my voice calm. She scoffed, giving me a tired look. You have no idea. I leaned forward slightly. Maybe I do. Mark's gone, isn't he? And you're suspended. She stiffened for a second, then forced a laugh. Oh God, here we go again. She shook her head and walked towards the kitchen, pretending she hadn't heard me. I didn't let her off the hook. How long were you sleeping with him, Sarah? That stopped her. She turned around, laughing again, but this time there was a nervous edge to it. Are you seriously still on this? My God, Tom, you're obsessed. You've been insecure and bitter ever since that party. All I did was dance with the man, and you've turned it into this whole fantasy in your head. She gave me a pitying look, like I was some paranoid fool. You overreacted that night, and now look at you, acting like some detective in a bad crime show. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just pulled the folder from my drawer and dropped it on the table in front of her. Photos. Videos. Sarah's face drained of color. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Then came the switch, the tears, the shaking voice. Tom, why would you do this? Her eyes glistened as she stepped closer, her tone dripping with desperation. You ruined everything. My job, my life. Was that your goal? To destroy me? I let her rant. I let her blame me for exposing her, for digging up what she thought was buried. The divorce papers will be ready soon, I said flatly. If you have a problem with that, take it to court. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, alone, drowning in the wreckage of her own choices. Now that it's over, I've learned a few things. Some might agree, some might not, but these are my truths. First, disrespect is the first crack in the foundation. The moment Sarah followed Mark onto that dance floor, our marriage was already dead. It wasn't about the dance. It was about what that moment meant. A wife who respects her husband doesn't hesitate to shut another man down, especially not in front of him. The fact that she even considered it, let alone did it, told me everything. Second, people show you who they are. Believe them. Sarah had been distant long before that night. The late nights, the excuses, the constant busyness, those weren't accidents. They were signs I ignored because I wanted to believe things could still work. But the truth is, when someone shows you time and time again that you're not a priority, it's because you're not. I should have accepted it sooner. But at least when the truth finally slapped me in the face, I didn't run from it. Third, revenge is a dish best served cold. That night at the party, I felt like a fool. Powerless. Mark looked me in the eye and called me weak, and for a second, I believed him. But emotions make people stupid. I wasn't about to let my anger lead me to do something rash. I waited. I gathered information. I made sure every move I made would count. And in the end, patience turned that single moment of humiliation into total destruction. Mark lost his job, his marriage is probably shattered, and Sarah? Well, she got what she earned. Finally, time spent setting things right is never wasted. Some might say I wasted too much energy on this, that I should have just walked away. Maybe they're right. But when someone openly disrespects you, when they make it clear they have no regard for you, reclaiming your power isn't just necessary. It's the only real choice. I refuse to be the man who let himself be walked over, and I don't regret a single second of it. So there it is. What do you think? Was I right, or should I have done things differently?